Hello everyone. I hope you guys are well. I hope you're also keeping safe in this time that we are living in this period where we are living in this COVID world. But unfortunately, in a world where now we see that COVID is starting to make its way amongst the youngest of us all. It's being found more and more every day in schools, and it is affecting you who are the youngest people and the people that the society needs to protect the most. So I really hope that you guys are doing okay and that you are safe. You are safe at school and you are safe at home from this pandemic, and you are trying to the best of your ability to protect yourself. Sanitizing, wearing masks, and practicing social distancing. That's the best way that we can get over this virus, or at least that we can try to protect ourselves from this dangerous virus. I hope that you are really doing okay and that you are doing well. I've been asked to do this video for you as a means to let you know more about myself and to let you know about the priesthood as well. So I suppose the best place to start is always at the beginning. So I am Father Malusi. I'm a priest of the Catholic Archdiocese of Durban, and currently I'm serving as the assistant parish priest in the parish of St. Joseph in Morningside. Well, I suppose you knew all of that. I'm the eldest of three boys to my mother and father. I have two younger brothers. One is working, the other one is still finishing off his school. So they're at home, and I'm the eldest of them all. I did my primary school education in a place called Barracuda Primary. This is a school in Newlands East, which is not far from my home, which is in Guamash. That's where I did my primary school from grade 1 up to grade 7. And then I did my high school education in Sparks State Secondary. It's just here in Overport, where I finished my matric in 2009. And then immediately after that, I went to join at least to start my studies for the priesthood. So I began in 2010, and I only finished in 2019, the May of that year. So you can see how long it takes for a person to become a priest. A good 9.5 years to make sure that the church has a proper trained priest who's going to go out and do obviously the best to his ability to preach the gospel to the people of God. I started in a place called St. Ambrose. That's when I did my formation year in 2010. You spend 1 year in St. Ambrose. St. Ambrose is a formation house, and I think you can say that the primary aim of it is that most of us, it's the first time we're away from home. All along we have been used to going to school and coming back home to live with mommy and daddy. So that's the first time that you are living outside of home. So to an extent you are outside of your comfort zone. St. Ambrose primarily it is meant for you to adapt to that, to adapt to living life away from home. That also obviously includes now the ability to start taking care of yourself and doing things for yourself, things that normally your mother would have done for you, you now have to do for yourself, including your washing and stuff like that. But it also starts easing you into a life of prayer, a life of serious prayer, where you learn how to pray, for example, the liturgy of the hours, the breviary. It's called the prayer of the church, which at your diaconate ordination, you promise that you're going to pray every day. Maybe one day when we meet together, I'll show you guys a copy of that and maybe even teach you how to say those prayers. Let's leave that for another day. But those are one of the things that you are taught to pray. You're taught how to meditate, um, internal silent prayer, to be at one with your thoughts, but also the ability to communicate with God internally and being one with Him as well. So you only do a year there in St. Ambrose, that is in Tongat. And then you do your second year in St. Francis Xavier Orientation Seminary, that is in Crawford in Cape Town. I think that was the highlight of my studying career, at least in my preparation for the priesthood. Not only is Cape Town a beautiful city, but that's where you also meet guys from all over South Africa who've got this intention as well of studying for the priesthood. And then you form a class there, and that's the class you are going to journey with until you reach the end of your formation. Unfortunately, it's also a period of just 1 year. So that was 2011 that I spent in Cape Town. And then in 2012, we went to John Vianney National Seminary, that is in Pretoria. That's where you now finish the rest of your studies. So for the next 7 years, you are going to be in Pretoria. That is now more focused on academic formation, to make sure that you are fully and properly prepared academically to deal with what you have been given, but also to interpret it for the people of God when you get out there as a priest. You do the first 3 years, you get a degree in philosophy. Philosophy basically it teaches you how to think. It teaches you how to be a critical thinker. But it also has a number of other modules that you are ultimately going to need as you function as a priest, including psychology, where you, to an extent, you have the ability to understand the human condition, the human mind, so as to have the ability to understand where a person is coming from when they come to you with a situation, that you don't just judge it at the surface or at face value, but you are able to journey deeper into the thoughts of those people and understand where they come from and ultimately why they are relating what they are relating to you, so you'd be in a better position to offer them help. So you do, one of the things that you do is psychology, or sociology, or anthropology. I'm not going to bore you guys with what those look into, but they are all a starting point where we are now gathering information that you are going to need when you finish the seminary. So in that philosophy degree, it takes you about 3 years to complete that. So the first 3 years that you are studying in Pretoria, you don't really do anything that has to do with God as yet. You are now only being taught how to think, how to be a critical thinker, so as to help people, but to answer questions as well, and have at your hands the ability to run a parish, to engage with people, to have the ability to teach and communicate. After those 3 years, you do a second degree that is going to take you 4 years. Now this is a degree in theology. Theology is the study of God. To a large extent, that's what you do. You study God and you try to understand His message for us. You don't try to understand God, because we know that God will always be beyond and outside of us. We'll never have this little head, or this little brain will never have the ability to totally encompass and grasp God for who exactly He is. But rather we use what has been given to us through the ages. For example, the Bible. We look at the Bible, we see the traces of how God was dealing with His people. And those who have gone on, who are priests but have gone on to study the Bible even more, now have the ability to tell us even the background of those Bible stories that we have, so as to understand why Jesus would say certain things, or why certain events would take place in a certain way, so that when we come to preach to you guys on Sunday, we can make it a bit easier for you to understand. Also the sacraments, the importance of the sacraments, how they are life-giving to us, so we can also have the ability to share that information with you guys. That's going to take you another 4 years to do a theology degree. And then eventually, just before you leave the seminary, you are taught things like how to celebrate Mass, how to baptize, how to celebrate marriages or weddings, stuff like that. Those are called faculties now, which is more the practical stuff. All along it has been theory, it has been information that has to live up here. So for the final 6 months, it's where you now start to do these things in practicality. And after you finish that, you then come back to the diocese where you are going to work, and then you get ordained first as a deacon whose primary duty is to serve. So you serve as a deacon for 6 months. I was ordained a deacon on the 20th of July 2019, and then I was ordained priest on the 22nd of February 2020. So that's typically the journey that you are going to take throughout those years as you prepare yourself for the priesthood. Maybe just to give you a glimpse of the seminary, a typical day in the seminary starts at about 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to shower, brush your teeth, prepare yourself. 6:30, you have to go for morning prayer and meditation. Remember what I said you were taught in your first year at St. Ambrose? It's now you are not being taught how to do it here. You're expected to know it. So you do morning prayer, which is what I call the liturgy of the hours, and meditation, what I called internal prayer, where you can be at one with God internally and in silence. And then after that you have Mass with your whole community of your brothers, and then you have breakfast. By the time you are done with all that prayer and Mass, you start at 6:30 and you finish at around 7:45. 7:45 you go and have breakfast. So as you finish 8:30, you begin your classes. Classes start at 8:30 until 5:50, with a tea break in between at 10:30. After lunch, then you have a bit of free time. So you are free from 1:30 to 3:30. 3:30 you are supposed to be back inside the premises of the seminary, and it's what you call study time. You do a bit of studying and personal reading and assignments and homework and whatever you got during the day in class. 5:30, you have to go for evening prayer again. Evening prayer and meditation once more. 5:30 to 6:30. 6:30 is supper, where you enjoy supper together, and you've got a free time as well from 7 to about 7:45. And then 7:45 it's study until 9:30. And 9:30 you have to be in your rooms preparing for the next day. So that's typically how a life of a seminarian is structured. It's a life that is very repetitious, so it can get tiring very quickly. So you always have to find interactive ways or interesting things to add to your life, so as to not get tired of the same routine every day. Now, priesthood is not a career. Most of you guys are going to go out there and be engineers or pilots or doctors or whatever you are going to choose to do. Priesthood is not a career. Priesthood is a vocation. I think, let's put it like this for you guys to understand. A career is a life that you choose. A vocation is a life that chooses you. So for me, for example, um, I always wanted to be a priest from a very young age. Before I even knew what was the duties and the functions of a priest, I part of me had already the idea that when I grow up, I want to be a priest. And slowly and surely, as I grew up, it's a love that kept developing within me, and then that's how I eventually chose to join the seminary and become a priest. Um, it's a vocation, it's a gift, it's a call. It's a call by God. It's something that God puts into the hearts of men to follow it. Hence, at times, even no matter how hard it's difficult, because it's something that lives within you, something that makes you happy, it's something that gives you life. You always follow it and you follow it through. In the introduction, I said that I am a priest of the Catholic Archdiocese of Durban. So priests are divided into two. You've got what is called a diocesan priest, which is a priest who works within a diocese, so who works within a certain space. For example, this is the Catholic Archdiocese of Durban. I hope you guys knew that. So as a diocesan priest of this archdiocese, it means that I would always work inside the Archdiocese of Durban. That's the only place that I can work. It means that you won't then find me working somewhere in Cape Town, for example, unless there are serious cases that have demands of that. It means that the bishop of here in Durban and the bishop in Cape Town would have to speak to each other, and then if the need arises, then I would have to move out there. So put that into mind. You've got a diocesan bishop, a bishop who works within, a priest rather, who works within a diocese that is head up by a bishop. And then we have what is called religious priests. That is not to say that diocesan priests are not religious, but religious priests are those priests who form a community first. So they are brothers who form a community based on a life of a saint. For example, a Franciscan. Franciscan is a religious order. So all the priests who feel that they are drawn to the life of Saint Francis are going to join that congregation. And before they even want to be priests, they want to live together as brothers who have love for Saint Francis and want to live their lives in accordance with what Saint Francis left for them as an example. And then within those congregations, so you've got, for example, like I said, the Franciscans who are devoted to Saint Francis. You've got Dominicans who are devoted to Saint Dominic. You've got Oblates of Mary Immaculate that are devoted to following the spirituality or living their lives in following the Blessed Virgin Mary. And some, it's not necessarily that they are dedicated to saints. You've got priests of the Sacred Heart, whose life and devotion is based on the Sacred Heart of Jesus and His mercy. So there are lots of congregations that exist, and to think of them in a simple terms, it's priests who have been drawn to a certain life of a saint, who have been drawn to a certain order or religious order, and then they join that and want to live as brothers who follow that spirituality, or what is called that charism. Whereas on the other side, a diocesan priest works within a diocese. He does not form that religious order of brotherhood. In other words, he does not live in a community. He lives on his own. As much as there are 3 of us who are currently living here at St. Joseph, and we are all diocesan priests, but we are all called to live as individuals. There's no problem in living. We have formed a little community of myself with Father Brett and Father Pierre. But one day I'm going to leave St. Joseph and I'm going to go to where it's going to be a parish of my own, where I'll be living on my own. So for us, we are based around the bishop and the needs of our brothers and sisters within that particular diocese. I wouldn't change anything for the priesthood. I'm still very, very, very happy with the choices that I made that have led me up here. It's not a simple life, but I mean, we are not called anyways to experience things in simplicity. God wants more from us than just want things to be simple, but it's a very fulfilling life. The ministry that I enjoy the most, or what I enjoy the most, is working with the elderly. I find that old people they've got a matured faith and a relationship with Jesus that I always aspire to, that I always hope that one day I would have the ability to reach, to be at one with God. And so whenever I'm with the elderly, whether I'm offering them the sacrament of reconciliation, which is confession, or I'm just taking them communion, and we sit and have a cup of tea and a laugh, that's what makes my priesthood happy. That's where I find fulfillment in my priesthood. And all of us obviously are called for different things, and we find joys in different ministries. Like I said, this is a vocation where God chooses an individual as they are. Now, priests are not perfect. We're far from perfect. Neither are we holy, but we strive for holiness. Just like you guys there should be striving for holiness, should be striving to make your lives a bit better, a bit holy, to make it holy for yourselves, for God, but also that it benefits our brothers and sisters. An exemplary life that when others see you, they are sort of drawn to that life. Remember that I spoke of priesthood as a vocation and not as a career. Now, in the church, there's a vocation to religious life. So a priest, for example, is living a religious life. You've got what you call permanent brothers and permanent sisters who are also living a religious life based also around a life of a saint. But you also have the vocation to married life. Like your mommies and daddies who are married, they feel that the best way that they are going to serve God is if they are married and they have kids and raise a family, which is also a beautiful vocation, which is also a beautiful sacrament as well, the sacrament of marriage. And we encourage more and more people to, if God is leading them that way, that they take up that sacrament and help populate the world, because it's married people, it's mummies and daddies that help God in having more people join this world so that they in turn can choose more vocations. And then there's a vocation which not a lot of people are aware of, but the vocation to single life, where God calls a man or a woman to live alone, to be happy as singles. They do everything. They're going to get a job like everyone else and be professionals. It's just that they are not going to get married, neither are they going to have children. And they enjoy that. They find life in that. They find that way is God is calling them to. I hope that as you grow as well, you will recognize your vocation. You will recognize where Jesus is calling you, whether to the religious life, to married life, or to the single life. But never be afraid to follow your vocation. Never be afraid to go where God is calling you, because by the mere fact that He's calling you there, it means that He will keep you, or He's going to sustain you in that vocation. So don't fear when God wants that from you. Be able to follow it and be happy about it. I hope that you found that give you a bit of an eye opener then, not just on who I am, but on the priesthood. It's much, much deeper, obviously, and this was just the surface of it. If you want more, I'll be more than willing to meet up with you guys and answer questions based on it. But anyways, I hope that you keep well. I hope that you'll keep okay. And until we meet again, cheerios and bye-bye.